dead!
Yeah.
The film begins in Afghanistan, where we see Donovan, an American businessman. At the time, Donovan and his secretary were laundering millions of dollars by transferring funds. After successfully transferring the funds, they intend to return to America soon. Meanwhile, outside the chamber, there are already numerous soldiers who are Donovan's guys. They would securely transport Donovan and his secretary out of Afghanistan while being well guarded. However, just as he was going to climb into the car, an RPG assault killed some of Donovan's men. Furthermore, the attackers proceeded to kill a large number of Donovan's men. The secretary attempted to flee, but she was slain by a single shot. The attack was carried out by 4 highly trained special forces. These 4 soldiers are regarded as the world's most sought fugitives, particularly in America, because they frequently kill people. They did this because Donovan had betrayed them before. When Donovan was asked about the money he had just transferred, he was initially mute, which resulted in him being shot in the leg. Finally, Donovan stated that he had transferred all of the funds to an American bank. Knowing this, they killed Donovan instantly. The scene moves to Kabul, Afghanistan's capital. A woman wearing a crimson hood walks through a swarm of residents. It is revealed that the woman is preparing to sell illicit antiquities to a fence. While the deal was in progress, they were unexpectedly surprised by security forces who detained her. In this moment, we eventually learn that the woman is an undercover agent working to stop the selling of illegal antiquities. The female agent's name is Rossi. Not long later, Rossi was asked by her supervisor to attend the Donovan Group massacre, which was carried out by 4 special soldiers. Agent Rossi arrived and promptly identified Donovan and the secretary's bodies. Rossi stated, after receiving information from headquarters, that Donovan was the leader of a contractor company that profited from the war. Donovan is also responsible for supplying weaponry to conflict regions such as Afghanistan. According to the investigators' findings, Donovan was then attacked by special troops armed with American-made weaponry. Rossi responded that she had previously assumed that the perpetrators of Donovan's attack were the 4 most sought special forces fugitives. It was discovered that the 4 special soldiers had participated in military actions, antiquity smuggling networks, and bank thefts. A few weeks later, the scenario shifts to America, where we meet a police officer named Mike. Mike is currently carrying out his tasks, which involve patrolling the city. Because many illicit weapons have been sold in America, there have been numerous criminal instances in the city. Mike's daughter Lisa was overjoyed since she discovered she was pregnant, and her husband's name was Steve. Steve, who knows Lisa is pregnant, is overjoyed because the results of his intercourse every night have finally produced something. Steve is a police officer just like Mike. Meanwhile, in a school restroom, it shows a student who is being tormented by his pals, a kid named Kenny. Kenny can't take it any longer since he keeps getting bullied, so he attempts to fight back and manages to beat the student who is bullying him. The following day, the action turns to Agent Rossi, who is now in America. At the time, Rossi approached a man who sold weaponry. Agent Rossi asks if he is the person who provided the weapons to 4 special troops who are now fugitives because one of the 4 special soldiers is known to be his friend. As a result, Agent Rossi proposes a bargain in which he agrees not to arrest the man in exchange for the man telling him where the 4 special soldiers are today. Feeling helpless, the man ultimately provides the address where they are hiding. Meanwhile, at school, Kenny's mother has been called by the head teacher in response to his act of striking his classmate yesterday. The head teacher stated that Kenny had hit one of the kids so severely that he was admitted to the hospital. As a result, Kenny will be punished by participating in police patrols for 1 week. Kenny's mother had opposed the penalty, but the head teacher stated that if Kenny did not receive it, the school would expel him. Finally, Kenny's mother agreed, provided her son would assist the police on patrols for 1 week. Returning to Mike, it is revealed that he is still frequently saddened by his wife's death. In addition, Mike is no longer on good terms with his daughter Lisa. Lisa is dissatisfied with Mike because he is constantly preoccupied with work to the point where he forgets his responsibilities to be the spouse of Lisa's late mother. Steve, Lisa's husband, continually encourages Lisa not to hate Mike because, after all, Mike is Lisa's biological father. Mike then picked up Steve to take him to the office. Meanwhile, in a bank, millions of dollars in deposits have been turned out to be the target of a robbery by 4 special forces fugitives. They could be observed packing weapons because their action was scheduled to take place that day. One of them went to a restaurant near the bank they were planning to rob, and his task was to lay a bomb under the restaurant table. This was done to divert attention if their subsequent attempt to rob the bank did not go as planned. Meanwhile, Kenny's mother was escorting him to the police station to serve his school-related sentence. Kenny would be joining Mike and Steve on patrol that day. While on patrol, Mike got an allegation of a robbery at a shop, so they rushed to the site. When they arrived, Mike and Steve apprehended the robber, then Mike requested that another police unit transport the crook to the police station. Looking back at the 4 special soldiers, who were now preparing to carry out the action, they appeared extremely relaxed since they believed that crimes like this were not frightening. After they left, Agent Rossi entered the hideout and went to the special soldiers' location. Agent Rossi did not find them, instead finding fragments of paper from an explosive. Meanwhile, the 4 special soldiers arrived at the bank they planned to plunder and stepped inside. Everyone was instructed to kneel down, and anyone who disobeyed would be executed. One of them appeared to be a guard in the car, monitoring the situation outside. The bank manager was forced to open the safe, and all the money was placed in a bag. Mike, Steve, and Kenny, on the other hand, were not far from the bank. Steve went out to purchase coffee. Mike questioned Kenny about why he was disciplined by the school. Kenny responded that he was a student who was frequently mistreated, but when he couldn't take it anymore, he had the confidence to fight back, and the bully was admitted to the hospital. Mike noticed a suspicious car parked in a restricted area. Not long after, Steve returned from buying coffee. When one of the criminals standing guard in the car noticed the police's arrival, he became concerned since he had no alternative. Finally, his friends let this man detonate a device planted in a restaurant to distract Mike and Steve. Unfortunately, Mike and Steve ignored the explosion and continued to investigate who was in the dark car. On the other hand, all police units were dispatched to assist the casualties and secure the explosion location. Meanwhile, Kenny's mother, who was in charge of the hospital, directed all physicians and nurses to prepare to care for the explosion victims. Agent Rossi, who also heard about the explosion, immediately assumed that it was carried out by the 4 fugitive. She is presently seeking Agent Rossi, who rushed to the scene of the explosion. Back to one of the thieves standing guard at the car, recognizing Steve and Mike did not want to go, he quickly prepared and attacked them. Feeling surrounded, Mike and Steve attempted to flee, and instantly called the other cops to come because the explosion was simply a diversion. Steve, who was preparing to depart, suddenly couldn't open his seatbelt and nearly became a target for bullets. After effectively disposing of him, Steve assisted Mike in shooting one of the thieves. On one occasion, the thief managed to shoot Steve's thigh while he was securing Kenny, but Mike eventually shot the robber's leg as well. Feeling cornered, the thief escaped in a car, but Mike was able to shoot directly into the robber's head, killing him there and then. After that, Steve begins to bleed from a bullet wound in his thigh. Kenny tried to help Steve stop the bleeding. At the hospital, Kenny's mother and the doctors were becoming overwhelmed by the number of victims from the blast. Shortly after, Kenny's mother learned that the same hospital would receive another victim of the robbery. Agent Rossi, who was also at the explosion site, attempted to ask one of the restaurant servers if she saw any faces of the 4 fugitives. After exhibiting a photo of the fugitives, the server explained that one of them had visited the restaurant in the morning. This indicates that Agent Rossi's assumption is valid. The 4 fugitives she is seeking are responsible for the current mayhem. When the city police arrived at the scene of the robbery, the criminals confronted them with the guns they had ready. The 3 surviving robbers shot the police one by one. Lisa, who was at home, became really concerned after learning about the shooting incident in front of the bank. Lisa recognized that her husband and father needed to be present right now. Meanwhile, Steve asks Kenny to record a farewell video if he does not survive the tragedy. In the video, Steve expresses his love for Lisa and the baby in her stomach. Steve cried and apologized for not being able to care for their child together. Later, Steve was eventually apprehended by police and transported to the hospital, but Kenny was terrified and preferred to get into one of the cars. After Steve was loaded into the ambulance, Mike noticed that Kenny was not following. Mike received a call shortly after from Lisa, who inquired about his and Steve's well-being. Mike said he was fine but that Steve got shot and was being rushed to the hospital. Lisa quickly went to the hospital to see her husband's condition. Lisa was surprised to learn that her spouse was dying. Meanwhile, Kenny, who was in the car, used the doll's battery to power his phone. Kenny contacted his mother right away after turning on his cell phone. Kenny stated that he was in the car and was quite afraid. His mother, who was treating the sufferers, advised Kenny to remain calm and patient until help arrived. The day is becoming darker, but this incident is far from over. Mike is irritated by his police colleagues' tardiness at the scene of the heist, despite having assured them that the explosion was only a diversion while the main conflict was taking place in front of the bank. Steve is now dying as a result of the police's inability to arrive on time. Agent Rossi, who was also present, advised the SWAT squad leader to be more cautious around the criminals. Agent Rossi said that the robbers were Special Forces personnel who had received extensive combat training. It was even reported that they had slain 30 soldiers. Meanwhile, inside the bank, the three robbers appear to be unconcerned with the emergency situation. This was due to their familiarity with any battlefield conditions. The current opponents are only the police, who are only willing to deal with tiny groups. One of the thieves, bored, approached the bank manager and killed him without explanation. When Mike returned to his search for Kenny, he felt compelled to accept responsibility for Kenny's well-being. Mike, aided by one of his pals, was desperate to get closer to the bank despite the fact that this case had been delegated to the SWAT squad from the police department. Finally, Mike found Kenny, and Kenny was relieved to be with Mike. The image then shifts to SWAT troops, fully armed and ready to enter the bank. The thieves, who did not want to remain silent, lined up the captives to use them as shields. One of the thieves ordered a hostage to leave by slipping a bomb into her pocket. However, when one of the SWAT teams attempted to rescue the hostages, the bomb exploded, killing one of the SWAT team members. The SWAT team was furious after learning that some of its men had been killed and decided to enter to surround them, leading to a gunfight. One of the remaining robbers attempted to escape with the money. Mike, who was still with Kenny and one of his friends, was surprised when the robber approached them. Mike's friend got shot and died, and the robber shot Mike's leg. When the thief realized Mike was cornered, he approached to shoot him in the head, but Kenny successfully shot him first, followed by Agent Rossi. After everything was finished, they showed Mike, who had been treated and was now in an ambulance. Then Lisa approached Mike and apologized. Lisa felt bad since she had hated Mike for her mother's death. Lisa also mentioned that Steve was getting better. 1 year later, Mike is astonished by the arrival of Lisa, Steve, his grandchildren, and Kenny's family, and the film concludes. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.